This is Nick.
This is Jack.
It's Tuesday, T-Boy Tuesday, March 21st. And today's pod is just absolutely, positively the best one yet. It's a T-Boy.
I was looking through the reviews this morning. God, I love reading the reviews of our show.
Really fun seeing the reviews. I love the reviews. More comments on the hair.
Except for like the 1 out of 20 that's a hater.
But you know what? Kind of love reading those too. Jack, what is our first story for today's pod?
Rolls-Royce has a new moonshot product. Literally.
Yeah, Rolls-Royce is building a nuclear power plant on the moon.
For our second story, right now, you've never seen Paris look less Paris. Protests are filling the streets with trash and fire.
And the reason for all the protests over in Paris, Jack?
France has now officially increased its retirement age to 64.
From 62 to 64.
And our third and final story. If you use Microsoft or Google at work, you're about to get a new coworker.
It's called Copilot, and it's your brand new robot assistant best friend ever.
And don't forget National Coworker Robot Assistant Day is next week.
Can you please share a fun fact about yourself, robot coworker?
But Yetis, before we hit that fantastic mix.
A wonderful mix of stories for a T-Boy Tuesday, man.
We want to talk about one of the greatest records of all time.
Yeah, Jack and I got to talk about one of the greatest streaks that has ever been struck.
That streak, that record is held by the Labrador Retriever.
For 31 straight years, the Lab has been the #1 dog in the United States.
I had a black lab growing up. His name was Bo.
Adorable.
I loved Bo.
Well, black, yellow, chocolate, albino, they were all labs and they were all Uncle Sam's best friend.
Until now.
Get this.
After 31 years, the Labrador Retriever has lost its patriotic U.S. collar.
Okay, Yetis, the new #1 dog in America. What is it, Jack?
It's not the Labrador Retriever anymore. Now, it's the French Bulldog.
AKA the Frenchie. The Frenchie is #1.
According to the American Kennel Club, the Frenchie is now America's top dog breed.
First, we took their French fries. Now, we're taking France's Bulldogs.
And this is a true Cinderella story for the Frenchie.
We jumped in T-Boy style 25 years ago. Frenchies didn't even crack the top 100 of U.S. dogs.
But today, 1 out of every 7 new dogs registered is a French Bulldog.
It's a Frenchie. Those rankings, though, we should point out, they don't include mixed breeds or mutts or labradoodles.
My current dog, River, is a super mutt who I also love.
But despite those details, 15% of all dogs registered last year, they were Frenchies.
Frenchies, not to be mistaken with Boston Terriers, by the way. Or Schnauzers.
There's nothing a Frenchie hates more than being called a Schnauzer.
And it's easy to know why we love Frenchies. It's the tongue-out smiling face that gets me.
Lady Gaga's got a Frenchie.
And those stubby little legs and compact bodies.
Leo DiCaprio's got a Frenchie.
And the big bulgy eyes, I just can't.
Megan Thee Stallion's got 2 of them.
It's like a baby human, but keeps it cuteness.
Martha Stewart has got 6 Frenchies going on.
You know, Yetis, people ultimately prioritize puppies.
But they really prioritize Frenchies. Yeah.
15 years before this song, 2 boys from the Northeast met in the dorm. They had an idea to cause a cultural storm. It's the best one yet, but the best is the norm. Jack, Nick, that's it. I don't even think they need to practice. 50%, that's a fat tip. T-Boy City on your at-list. If you know, you know, cause we ready to go. We can't wait no more, so just start the show. Start the show.
For our first story, actually, let's start with Microsoft. We're going to talk about Microsoft first. Yetis, if you use Microsoft or Google at work, then you're about to get an artificial intelligence assistant.
Spoiler, this thing will save you a lot of time at work, but it's actually not going to save you any time at work.
No, it is not. Yetis, collectively, all of us have just experienced the phase 1 of artificial intelligence.
It was wild, and it started in November when ChatGPT got launched.
It all was about launching. Launching was phase 1. But Jack, what is phase 2 of artificial intelligence?
Monetizing these artificial intelligence chatbots.
Because once you're a big tech company and once you've launched a chatbot, you got to make some money off this thing.
And the front runners are Google and Microsoft, and they just made another set of big back-to-back announcements last week.
Well, both of these giant tech companies are implanting their AI chatbots into their workplace software now, like ASAP. You're probably going to see this today or sometime in the next few weeks.
If you use Google or Microsoft at work, you're going to see an AI chatbot very, very soon.
Now, Yetis, Jack and I were wondering, how are we going to tell this story? Because Google and Microsoft both just announced like big changes to their chatbots. So what should we do, Jack?
Oh, Microsoft gave the better presentation.
Yeah, they did. It was better.
So we're going to describe their new product, Microsoft's Copilot.
Now, Yetis, do you remember Clippy? Does that ring any bells? Clippy?
Little dancing paperclip on the side of Microsoft Word.
It was like that paperclip who would lecture you on how to change the font in your Word doc.
Copilot is the new version of that. It's Clippy, but with an MIT degree.
So here's how this is going to go down. Copilot on Microsoft is going to sit on the sidebar of your computer. So you can just type commands to it anytime you want during the day.
It's going to be in the whole Microsoft suite. Word, Office, Excel, PowerPoint, the whole thing.
All right, so Jack, let's say you got a 17-page long email thread going on from Carol in accounting. What are you going to do?
You're going to type into Copilot, summarize, and they'll give you one paragraph that summarizes the whole 17 emails.
All right, Jack, let's say you showed up late to that video call that's being hosted on Microsoft software.
You can ask Copilot, catch me up to speed on what I missed.
And then Copilot is going to read a transcript of that meeting from while you were gone and send you a 3-bullet point summary.
At the end of the meeting, you might ask out loud, is anyone jotting down the next steps that we're all discussing together?
Yeah, Copilot just jotted down the next steps like it was Ian, the unpaid intern.
This intelligence is impressive. If you ask it a question about an Excel spreadsheet, it'll tell you the answer.
And then if you ask it to create a PowerPoint based on a Word doc based on that data, it'll spread out a PowerPoint.
And he can pass.
Yeah, these chatbots just went from fun to play with to fun to work with.
And your boss is going to pay for it and make you work with it at work.
Toss it on the expense account. So Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies over at Microsoft and Google?
AI chatbots will save you a lot of time, but they won't save you any time.
Now, Yetis, Microsoft and Google, they are moving fast, and they're going to have to try really hard not to break things along the way.
Yeah, I hope they don't. But if they smooth out the kinks, these chatbots could boost productivity, as if there's 2 of you at work.
Okay, let's follow the numbers here. With a chatbot at your side, you could get the same amount of work done in half the time.
But given the recent layoffs across tech, that probably means you're going to get assigned double the work.
Ipso facto, you won't get any time back, but you are going to end up accomplishing a lot more.
And with an aging workforce, a worker shortage, and low birth rates in this country, we actually need more productivity.
Yeah, so having an AI assistant probably won't give you your time back.
But it may give America its productivity back.
For our second story, Rolls-Royce just raised money to build, a nuclear reactor on the moon.
Because moonshots, this is a literal moonshot, moonshots are the best kind of marketing.
Now, Yetis, Jack and I covered Rolls-Royce for the very first time last January because Rolls-Royce had just put up some record numbers.
The average price of a Rolls-Royce sold last year was over $500,000 for the first time.
Our takeaway at the time, Rolls-Royce isn't selling cars, it's selling unique works of art.
That Rolls-Royce is the car brand, and that car company is actually owned by BMW.
Okay, funny piece of trivia here. Rolls-Royce, the car company, is owned by BMW. But Jack, there's another Rolls-Royce company out there, isn't there? A sister company.
Rolls-Royce, the British independent publicly traded company, they don't do cars, they do huge engines and power turbines.
It's like, Yetis, if you're on an airplane right now in seat 34B, look to your right out the window and you may be looking at a Rolls-Royce plane engine.
And that Rolls-Royce, the turbine company, just got a $4 million grant from, get this, the UK Space Agency.
So Jack and I were curious. We jumped in T-Boy style, and here's what we thought was so shocking. This new Rolls-Royce project isn't for a new car. It's for nuclear.
It's for nuclear.
It's like a nuclear reactor. Rolls-Royce is about to build a nuclear reactor.
And it's not building that reactor in Mississippi. It's building it on the moon.
We repeat, Rolls-Royce is building a nuclear reactor on the moon. It is a moonshot project, literally.
Is this a CEO or Dr. Evil?
Houston, we have a chassis. Houston, we have a chassis.
Now here's why Rolls-Royce is doing something so ridiculous sounding.
Here's what they're thinking. You can't have a space race without space infrastructure.
Because most investments in space so far have been about getting there.
Right, but if we want to stay there, then we're going to need energy. We're going to need what Matthew McConaughey would call interstellar infrastructure.
So Rolls-Royce is building a mini nuclear reactor that they hope to deploy on the surface of the moon by 2029.
So if your grandchildren are like lunar people, they're going to be paying an electric bill not to PG&E, but to Rolls-Royce, the British power company.
And it makes sense. because the moon has no air and no liquid, and it doesn't face the sun long enough for solar to work.
So frankly, we're going to need more of these self-sustaining mini nuclear reactors on the far side of the moon in order to actually live there.
No lunar people without nuclear.
Jack, I've said it once, I'll say it before. We are not doing a podcast on the moon unless there's a nuclear reactor.
Oh, by the way, we hope this works because it'd stink if they blew up the moon.
Rolls, don't mess with the moon. So Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies over at Rolls-Royce?
Moonshots aren't about ROI. Moonshots are about marketing.
Now, Yetis, you've heard of moonshot projects before. Like Facebook, Zuck had a whole division devoted to moonshot projects.
A moonshot project is a big do-gooder project that will improve humankind long-term.
Well, Rolls-Royce's moonshot is such a long shot that it's going to take them 6 years before they can even begin testing on the moon.
And if they succeed, it's impossible to know how much money a nuclear power plant would ever make.
But the real value here for Rolls-Royce isn't that they may power a space town in like 20 years.
The real value is today, because everyone is associating Rolls-Royce, the brand, with an exciting, innovative project.
The way Jack and I see it, moonshots, they aren't really about ROI, return on investment.
Moonshots are about marketing. Now, a word from our sponsor, Robinhood.
Jack and I can count a dozen movies about time travel.
That one with the time-traveling hot tub, or the one with the crazy hair guy in the car.
Well, all those are all fictional films, aren't they, Jack?
There's one real-life move that might make you okay with not having a time machine.
Yeah, saving for your retirement.
Around 60% of Americans wish they had socked away more for retirement, according to the National Bureau of Economic Research.
That's why Robinhood created the only IRA with a 1% match for eligible contributions every year.
So maybe you don't need a time machine. Limitations apply.
To get started, go to Robinhood.com/Tboy and get your first stock for free. Conditions apply.
That's Robinhood.com/TBOI.
All investments involve risk. Contributions to and withdrawals from IRAs may entail tax consequences. Robinhood does not provide tax advice.
Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC.
For our third and final story, France is seeing its biggest nationwide protests in years, and it all comes down to one number.
That number is 62, which is changing to 64.
First, we got to sprinkle on some context here. Emily in Paris, season 3, last episode. What'd you actually think of that thing?
Huge cliffhanger.
Huge cliffhanger. Did not see that coming. Also kind of feel bad for Alfie.
Awful for Alfie.
Feel awful for Alfie. Now, there's one scene in that Emily in Paris show that we don't remember, and that scene is when she's enjoying a croissant while a pile of trash catches on fire in Paris.
The most romantic city in the world right now, Yetis, is raging with protest. The sidewalks are full of burning trash. Trains are blocked. People aren't working.
Sanitation workers, transportation workers, teachers, unions, they are all on strike. No one's picking up the garbage, and it's all happening like today.
Huge swaths of French society have been protesting for weeks, all because of President Macron's signature legislation.
And here is that signature legislation. The president of France wants to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64.
It's such an unpopular policy that the president used a loophole in the French constitution to push the law into reality without getting a vote in parliament.
Like jam this thing through a loophole. Not too easy over in France.
And yesterday, President Macron's government survived a vote of no confidence, which means it's official.
It's official. French people, you are going to have to work until 64 before you rosé all day.
Before you Saint-Tropez all day.
or Jack. Or before you croque monsieur tous les jours.
Yetis, in America, our third rail of politics, it's always been Social Security. You don't touch that.
You don't talk about Social Security. You're going to make people upset. People are going to get upset.
Well, the French president, Emmanuel Macron, he just got all up in that third rail's business. He just totally changed France's Social Security.
Okay, now here's why this is such a complex issue. The economic rationale to change the retirement age in France from 62 to 64, it's actually pretty clear.
It's clear because just like in America, French people are living longer, so they should probably work a little longer too.
All right, Jack, let's travel back in time, my friend. Let's go back to 1935 when Social Security was created in the United States.
Back then, we had 10 working age people paying into Social Security because they were young, with only one retired person on the other side taking money.
Well, Jack, what do the numbers look like today with America's Social Security plan?
Since we're so much older, you only have 4 young workers working while one retired person is taking.
Only 4 of us young Americans are putting our money from our paycheck into Social Security.
It's gone from 10 to 1 to 4 to 1.
And in France, it's even worse.
France's 62 years retirement age, that was the youngest in Europe.
And just to sprinkle on a little bit more context here, 64, that's still on the low end of retirement in Europe.
Well, the retirement age in France is 64 now, but it's TBD whether President Macron's career can survive this unpopular law.
And it's TBD if season 4 of Emily in Paris is going to address this issue in the first place.
Like, is Cammy's dad, Gerard, going to have to retire from being the Champère and actually have a real job again?
And is Gabriel going to have to shut down this whole cafe situation because he just wants to hang out on the beach? So, Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies over in France?
This isn't about economics. It's about national identity.
So, Yetis, Jack's and my dads, both of our dads, they were raised in the post-war baby boom. And both of our dads are still walking to work every day in their 60s and 70s.
Yeah, they're both 60 and 70. They're both still working. And they both walk to work every day. Both of our dads.
They should call each other on the phone. That'd actually be kind of funny, Jack. Well, in France, they've got a totally different social contract. It's all about living, not working. So they are proud of their retirement system.
Our dads were raised with the American dream, which was about working hard to succeed.
Well, working less, it is part of France's je ne sais quoi. It's what makes their culture so different, so romantic.
It's why the French tolerate such a high tax rate over there.
Yeah, because everyone's taken care of once they get to retirement.
And it may be a reason why the biggest company in Europe, luxury brand LVMH, is thriving there.
Yeah, because their relaxed culture may be a little bit more innovative.
Yetis, the economics of raising the retirement age in France is super clear.
But the protesters think this changes a national identity. Jack, can you whip up the takeaways for us for T-Boy Tuesday?
Microsoft and Google are both rolling out AI assistants into their work software.
They'll save you time at work, but you'll probably work just as much.
For our second story, Rolls-Royce, not the car company, is working on a nuclear reactor for the moon.
Moonshots, they aren't about ROI, they're about marketing.
And our third and final story, France has raised the retirement age from 62 to 64, and it caused huge protests.
Because it's not just about the economics, it's about national identity. Now, time for the best fact yet. This one sent in by Yeti Tamar Bardeen in lovely Washington, D.C.
Denver International Airport isn't just an airport. It's an entire geography.
Okay, get this, Yetis. The Denver airport is larger than all of Manhattan, like the island of Manhattan.
It's 1.5 Manhattans, actually.
Yeah, like the airport over in Denver, it's 52.4 square miles of land.
It's the largest airport in the United States and the second largest on Earth.
Okay, Jack and I were curious, so we jumped in further T-Boy style. Get this. Denver's airport, if it were in Rhode Island, would take up 5% of the state.
It's not just an airport.
No.
It's a geography.
You got to take an airplane, just get the other side of the airport, Jack. Now taking off from airport to Terminal A to... Yetis, you look fantastic today. Jack, you are looking great, and I love your t-shirt.
Thank you.
And if you want to help grow the pod, a great thing you can do, drop down and give us a review. 5-star, 2-star, but we'll prefer 5-star.
Drop down and give us 5 HYH TBOY.
Have you had the best one yet?
Nick and I will see you tomorrow.
If you know, you know. And before we go, congratulations to Yeti's Max Lurch and Tran Lay, who are eating lunch right now, but they also just got engaged in Seattle.
Congratulations. 6 years of dating. Not too much, not too little. Right in the meaty part of the curve.
And a congratulations to besties Adelie and Austin, who just got married down in Corinth, Mississippi.
And congratulations to Susan King, who just gave birth to her second child, Edward, in Cleveland, Ohio.
And Betsy McBride, enjoy that birthday celebrating in Dallas, Texas.
And happy birthday to Marika Nicastro in Italy.
Buon compleanno. And Tanner Otto is turning 29 in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio.
Happy birthday to Penelope Chung, turning 11 in Bountiful, Utah.
Penelope, she's going to be president one day.
Penelope for president, 2062.
Today's pod is not endorsed by Penelope.
This is Jack. Nick and I both own stock of Robinhood. And now a word from our sponsor, Robinhood.
They say cash is king.
But most cash doesn't live like a king. It lives like a pawn.
Most cash does nothing. It's just sitting there, earning no or hardly any interest.
So how do you make your cash more royal?
Well, Robinhood offers 4.15% APY on your uninvested cash with Robinhood Gold.
You can earn 4.15% APY with Robinhood Gold's $5 a month membership.
That's how you make cash feel like royalty.
To get started, go to Robinhood.com/Tboy and get your first stock for free.
That's Robinhood.com/TBOY.
Certain limitations and terms apply. Rate is subject to change, and all investments involve risk.
Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Robinhood is not a bank.